Alright, so we're going to start doing some electrical work today. It's going to be one of my less enjoyed days. It's something that has to be done, but it's definitely not something I'm going to enjoy doing. So I'm going to start off at the back. Let's get the battery mounted up. We'll run a cable. There's already what I call an umbilical cord that runs right up through the center of the car that has all of the wires that should go to the back, like the brake lights, the backup lights, etc., etc. There's still some slack in the little eye loops that hold it to the body, so I'm just going to run the main power cable alongside of all of that. That way I just have one giant set of wires that run right up the middle of the car. Nice straight shot, super easy. That'll be nice and clean. All my wires are in one area, although when it comes time to wire up the MSD box, which will be in the back of the car, I'll probably run those down the passenger side, because it'll be a straight shot from to the main computer and then back and up to the coil, which will be up front on that side. So that'll just make it simple. There'll be the two wires, the signal wires going to the box, two wires going back, and then basically the power wire from the ignition switch up front, and then it'll be grounded in the back. So that 5 wires that'll run the passenger side there, so not too big of a deal. But anyways, let's get the garage door open and get our hands dirty. Crappy bit. Every one of my drill bits is pretty much as sharp as a wet noodle. So it's taking way more effort than it should. Hope if it was tight in there, wouldn't it? Looks good to me. Let's test fit this guy. Yep. Maybe get all the wires out of the way. Alright. That'll work. It's going to be tight. The box is right up against the hump there. Maybe I'll slide it around. We'll see. That actually looks like it's going to work. Oh, how'd this go? I think this was washer here. Something like that. That looks about right. In there. Alright, that'll work. Now he's got to get underneath and tighten it up. Here we go. Ground cable's hooked up, battery cable's hooked up. I didn't tighten this because at some point I'm gonna have to run the power wire from the alternator back here if I want this kill switch to work. So for now I'm just wiring it to get it started, and that'll get tightened up and taken care of later. Probably gonna need a big washer up here in the front because the last kill switch that was in this car required a much larger hole to be drilled than this. I didn't want to drill a bunch of holes, so I'll just get a big washer and that'll tighten this up just fine. Alright, there's the box mounted up. This is the same box from the last car. MSD box sits over here off to the side. Probably unconventional to most. The MSD box will be all the way back here, but I found it to work very well, very convenient. Definitely nowhere near heat. And then the 3-step is right next to it, so that's good. I'm gonna need some washers. As you can see, there's not enough threads when I push this all the way down, so I'm gonna have to get some more washers, and somehow I lost one of these nuts, so I'll get another nut and some washers next time I go to the hardware store. Battery cable is grounded down there. I started to go through the wiring that previous owner has done. It is pretty much the definition of Mickey Mouse, so although I'm gonna have to rip that all apart, I'm not gonna start it now because I still don't have my damn fuse block, and I don't want to start the wiring and then wait 3-4 days, a week, whenever, however long it takes for that thing to come through. It's been sitting in customs the last 5 days according to the tracking number. So it's, what's today? This 9th, and it says it could come as late as the 18th according to the tracking number. So I'm not going to start something like that and then not see it through. So once that shows up, then the wiring can continue. All right, minor update. Today is day 2 of electrical work. The electrical stuff is going to be a slow and long process, so this video is more than likely going to be just a compilation of multiple days worth of work, because I can only do a couple minutes worth of electrical at a time before it drives me crazy, and I'm still missing stuff. Still waiting on that fuse box. But let me show you what I've done. Main harness is now in. Ran it through the factory location, and this grommet pretty much is doing its job. There's plenty of holes in the firewall, so it's not like I need it to be airtight. Zip tied the cable in place, so at least it's not going to dangle down on anything hot. Got the salt and pepper shakers all hooked up, barometric pressure sensor, although I don't think I use that at all in my tune, but might as well hook it up because I can. The engine harness is all hooked up. You may notice now that the upper intake is on. Had to do that in order to get the throttle position sensor hooked up, as well as the idle air control valve. Wires are all run up here to the TFI module. Injectors on this side are all plugged in. Alternator still isn't wired up, although it's not that difficult to do. It's basically just a 12-volt switched wire, which is this guy right here, and then power to, or this cable over to the battery. Man, it's been a long day. I can't even think straight. But alternator is easy, and I don't need that to start the car. I need it to drive it, but I don't need it to start it. And then you can see the wires come in. Everything is labeled. Engine management system is obviously not there yet. It is right there, taking up space on the shelf. It'll get in there eventually, don't worry. I also took out the gauges that were in here. They were wired up poorly, as well as the fact that I had no sending units for any of those gauges. And it works out perfect because the 3 gauges for my car that I want to keep will just sit there in its spot, which is going to be voltage, what do I have? Voltage, oil, pressure, and water temperature. So I have the sending units for those, saved them from the last car. So we'll get that installed as part of the wiring once that fuse box comes. Still haven't hooked up the starter solenoid. Still trying to figure out where I want to put it, as well as where I'm going to put the fuse and relay panel. Not sure how big it's going to be, so that's why I haven't decided where it's going to go. But that's where I'm at for now. We'll get around to doing more wiring. Yes. Oh, someone's covered in chocolate, and you found a picture of Mom. Good for you. So Lucy's out here helping me out, or distracting me, one or the other. But we'll keep plugging away. Alright, so I'm going to wrap up this last little bit of the electrical video with showing the install on the coil. I filmed the work as I was doing it, then realized that my GoPro was in camera mode, so all I did was take a picture. I didn't actually film anything. So sorry about that, you missed out. But it was basically just me chopping up the bracket here. This bracket on the back was bent slightly different than it is now. All I did was straighten it out, chop it up a little bit to make it smaller. Last owner of this car had a fuel pressure regulator mounted right there, which is why the fuel lines terminate here. I'll end up cutting those back to further back there in the firewall and transition from the hard line to the braided line. That's actually the return line dangling there. Feed line will hook up there. But anyways, this isn't about the fuel system. What I did is I took this coil, which is almost brand new. I bought it just before I wrecked my last car. It works great. The bracket it's attached to is actually just the stock bracket that I've cut slightly. And then this is just a piece of flat stock that came from Home Depot. Bolted it up there, did a little bit of welding, and there you go. Ignition coil is gonna sit right there, away from heat. Boom. Boom. Then I'll probably have to figure out a nice way to route this so it's not dangling down on something like that and something that's going to get burnt on. But this is where we're at for now. I'm going to wrap up this this video here on the electrical, since there's going to be a lot of electrical work, so I'm not going to make one gigantic video about it. So it's going to be over the course of a couple of videos, but at least I got it started. I'm going to start making the relay panel, or fuse box panel, whatever you want to call it, real soon. It came in the mail today. If it wasn't 110 degrees out here right now, I'd probably start working on it now, but I am not in the mood to deal with this heat. So this is where I'm going to leave you guys. Hope you liked the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share the video with your friends. Let them know. It's going to be a quick as possible build while not cutting corners and not spending a ridiculous amount of money. So that might slow me down a little bit, but by the time summer's over, I want to be driving this thing. Just depends on how much of the heat I can tolerate, how much work I can get done in the early morning hours on my couple of days off before it gets hot. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Thanks, guys.